Hey, it's been a minute. It's about time we caught up. There's a lot to catch you up on. I had a quarter-life crisis, quit social media, went back to Japan alone, and ended up standing on top of a mountain with a 50,000-word draft of a book I wrote about someone trying to find themselves in Japan. But to understand what comes next, you need to understand how we got here. As you probably know by now, I spent my senior year of college studying abroad in Osaka, Japan. But when that incredible experience inevitably came to an end, I returned home to California. While all my friends were graduating and moving off to new places, I moved back into my childhood home and started a full-time job. I spent the next few months grinding through the backlog of footage and finishing the rest of Japan Adventure Season 2, which had me switching back and forth between my past and present on nights and weekends. I found myself so nostalgic, yet also so grateful. The significance of what I had experienced, and also what I had created, wasn't lost on me. But as Japan began to feel more and more distant, and I fell into a routine that was becoming monotonous, that nostalgia couldn't help but turn depressing. And as we all do, I inevitably found myself scrolling more and more on social media. I watched as people from college and high school were still traveling the world, starting new lives in big cities, getting married, finding jobs in Japan. And here I was, feeling like the greatest thing that had ever happened in my life might be over. With lofty dreams of someday traveling to every prefecture, and fond memories of the time I had spent in nature, I decided fairly quickly that my return to Japan would also be a return to the southernmost of the four main islands, Kyushu. While I spent most of my time previously in Fukuoka, my itinerary this time would take me in essentially a large circle on the western side of the island, hitting other key spots like Nagasaki and Kumamoto, which is where my journey started. I wasn't naive enough to think that going back would suddenly recapture the magic of what I had experienced. But still, as I stepped off the plane and onto Japanese soil again, I was quickly hit with a feeling of regret. The sky outside was gloomy and it was raining. What was supposed to be a beautiful spring vacation was off to a depressing start. And once again being surrounded by uncertainty and a language in which my ability had quickly atrophied, I couldn't help but feel like I had made a mistake and question why I was even here in the first place. And then this happened. I stumbled onto the street outside the main station and found myself in the midst of a dance competition that brought together teams from all around Kyushu. To say that things were looking up might have been an understatement. When I first started to plan this trip, immediately my mind was thinking about, are you going to make a video? What kind? What will it be about? Whether I'd like to admit it or not, coming out of last year, I had probably become the most invested in my social media presence I had ever been. I feel like I was always in the mindset of thinking about what would make for a good Instagram post. And every time I was at a new place, seeing a spectacular new view, I would instantly pull out my phone or my camera to get the shot. And don't get me wrong, I genuinely love content creation, but I was afraid that my relationship with it had become unhealthy. Japan Adventures was clearly about documenting my time studying abroad and about telling the story of that experience. But as I arrived in Fukuoka, with no friends around to star in my videos this time, I felt compelled to capture candid footage of the people around me, as I'd seen in so many other travel influencers' content. After some reflection though, I quickly stopped doing this, and was forced to question what I was doing. I would say these videos were a continuation of me documenting my experiences for me to remember, but here I was filming people I didn't even know who were just trying to live their normal lives. The motivation as to why I was creating things in the first place had become blurry. Was I creating content about living, or living to create content? What story was I trying to tell here, and was it one that even needed to be told? These thoughts brought me back to something I had been struggling with for a while. I couldn't help but feel like I was getting distracted. I love making videos, but for a long time I'd also felt the desire to flex my creative muscles in a lot of other ways, and tell stories in other mediums too. However, I had found myself ignoring those desires simply because videos were easier to make. Throughout my time in school, I'd accumulated a number of half-finished projects. A screenplay I wrote for a screenwriting class I took in college, random short stories I wrote about whatever drama was happening in my life at the time, and even more ideas that filled up hundreds and hundreds of notes in my phone. All things that took a lot longer than a YouTube video to make and required a lot more work, but also things that deep down meant a whole lot more to me. But despite that, I never finished most of them, as it had always felt like I was waiting for something, or something else was higher priority. In high school, I had to worry about getting into a good college. In college, I had to keep my grades up and get internships. Then I was in Japan, and I dropped everything to document the amazing experience happening around me. But now all of my hard work had paid off. I had graduated, created 25 episodes of a vlog series, and had landed a full-time job to be able to support myself. In a way, what I'd been waiting for all this time had finally come. There were no more excuses. This was the beginning of the rest of my life. If it wasn't now, then it was never going to happen. In the midst of these feelings, I was reminded of NaNoWriMo, or National Novel Writing Month. It's an annual event that happens every November, where aspiring writers attempt to write a book, defined by the challenge as 50,000 words, in 30 days. While I had always romanticized the idea of attempting this challenge, it was just yet another thing I dismissed as not being high priority, especially due to the time commitment. This was even more true now, as November was one of the busiest times in my work due to the holiday season. But I also knew from my prior writing experience just how difficult it was probably going to be, and I knew if I was going to try something like this, I needed to prepare for it. Taking on this challenge with a story that was running on a few scattered ideas and a general vibe, without concrete characters, themes, and a structured plot, was a recipe for frustration, and ultimately, failure. So in some ways, the real limiting factor was having a story to tell. I definitely had a million half-baked ideas lying around in my notes, but I never spent enough time developing any of them into enough of a story to even think about writing something as long as a novel. But when the dust had settled and February of 2024 rolled around, my mind drifted back to the concept. After collecting quite a few fragments of my notes app while studying abroad in Japan, there was one story that finally felt kind of fleshed out to me, and one that the more I thought about it, the more I was dying to tell it. It was a continuation of a story, a character I had met years prior but had finally found while walking the streets of Osaka. And so, in the face of a quarter-life crisis, I dropped everything else for a month and began telling her story. I've just finished day one of not NaNoWriMo, and I don't know, I'm feeling good right now. I think ideas are flowing.
It was nicer than I thought it was going to be, because I kind of didn't know where I was going next, and then I kind of just started talking about Japan, and that just came out of 1,700 words about Japan, so things are going well, although I'm up a little later than I wanted to be, so another day.
Yeah, that didn't last long.
Today is day 5, and, well, still technically day 5, and it is currently 11:58 p.m. at night. I still have 800 words left for today. I just didn't have as much time, and it was harder stuff to write. I got wrapped up in the setting and like trying to describe something, and I don't know, I guess I'm gonna just push through it, but just not fun. Not a fun moment. So I'm working outside today, but things are just going so much slower. I think I'm going back and editing things I've already written, and I think I'm thinking too much in a lot of cases about trying to represent the scenes and the experience that the character's going through accurately. Like, I was doing a lot of research too, but I think that's really slowing me down, and it's fine because it's the weekend, but tomorrow I have work and it's not really gonna be possible anymore, so yeah.
And just, I don't know, just the thought of like waking up tomorrow and having to continue, having to do it all over again after grinding it out today is just not looking forward to that. So it's rough, honestly. I knew this was going to be hard, but I guess maybe I thought it was going to be more of an issue of finding the time and having the time to write 1,500 words a day. But I guess I'm finding it's more about staying motivated and
I guess I didn't expect it to be so much that kind of a struggle. So, but 1 week is done, and it is something. So I'm trying to remind myself of that as I head into another 3 weeks of this. So.
I think we all know how difficult it can be sometimes to accomplish even simple tasks when there's some kind of friction to them. Then try being creative. It's so much easier for my brain that already spent 40 hours that week working my job to simply scroll social media and absorb hits of dopamine. I would scroll through video after video of people doing the things I wanted to do, and inevitably comparing my work to them. Whether videos or writing, there was already 100 other people out there doing what I wanted to be doing, and doing it way better. I knew in order to get better, I had to actually create things, but it was a self-fulfilling cycle. Watching these videos would sap my motivation to work on things that didn't feel like they'd be any good anyway, and I would never get any better because it was always easier just to scroll. On the weekends, I found myself waking up, doom scrolling for a few hours, before realizing the day was already half over and losing all hope of getting anything productive done that day.
Today is day 14, which is not quite, but almost halfway. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been rough. I think my lack of planning is definitely catching up to me, because it's been harder to even get started writing for the past few days. I don't know, I still don't have everything fully lined out, so I'm afraid it's gonna get harder before it's gonna get easier, and I'm worried at this point that I'm not gonna finish the book in 30 days, because I guess halfway would be soon, and I feel like I'm only maybe a third into Act 1. So if I can actually make it through 30 days, that's still an achievement, but also it's going to be a little disappointing if I don't have a story beginning to end by the end of that time. In some ways, I shouldn't limit myself, but I don't want to cut it short just to be done. But at the same time, I was really hoping to have that done and like have it in hand at the end of this. So
after coming to this realization, it quickly began to eat away at my motivation. As the days passed, the thought of having to go through all of this over again just to finish a first draft was filling me with dread. And once I lost the momentum of this challenge, who's to say I would even finish it? What if this just becomes another half-finished project left to collect dust? I have so many things sitting on the shelf that I never finished, always pushing them off to the future. But this was it, the beginning of the rest of my life. And here I was, yet again, starting something new I was never going to finish. What was the point of all of this? Maybe I should just be content working my 8 hours and spending my free time playing video games and making my vacation videos once a year. At this point in my trip, I had arrived at Amakusa, an island off the coast of Kumamoto that held one of the main destinations I'd planned the entire trip around in the first place. A shrine with a stunning view that lay at the top of a mountain that I had discovered, ironically enough, through social media. The only problem was, this island was far more rural than the big cities I'd been staying in so far. I had mapped out a way to get to the small town by the shrine, but staying on this small island in a ryokan that barely had an internet presence, and relying on buses that ran only a few times a day to get there, from which I'd then have to hike to the top of the mountain itself, let's just say it was definitely the most adventurous part of my trip. But I had set my mind on doing this, and I wasn't giving up now. And it was once again in discomfort that I found clarity. A truth I had so far never been able to escape in my life. I was far too influenced by other people. We've all heard the advice that we shouldn't care what other people think about us, but it's so much harder to put into practice, especially when we live in the age of social media. Every day we're surrounded by the thoughts, opinions, and criticisms of hundreds of other people, and are faced with feeds filled with them having more success than us, living more extravagant lives than us, and doing what we like to do better than us. And to be honest, I'm not good at tuning out the noise. I never have been.
I'm already doing it worse than I want to admit, constantly excusing it. I'm the one who's fueling it, addict, and I've gotta quit before the shit is permanent.
But I knew I couldn't finish this challenge or accomplish anything I wanted to do without making a change. So I did what I had to do. I completely deleted Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit off my phone. I put my head down and tried to tune out the noise as much as possible. What we see and what we put online is a filtered version of reality, whether we'd like it to be or not. And I'm guilty of it too. Would you still have clicked on this video if it had said I only wrote half a book? There's always going to be an inherent curation of what you post and what you don't. So if I'm not even being honest and capturing my experience as it is, why am I really making these videos? Why do I even want to create things in the first place? Not to be nihilistic, but I'm not sure what else to do with my life. I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going, but I know what's important to me right now, and so I'm going to cherish that the only way I know how and immortalize it into some piece of art. My art is about sharing my experiences. I'm telling stories not just for the sake of entertainment, but to give new perspectives. To share lessons I've learned the hard way. To help people feel seen for whoever they are and whatever they've gone through in their life. To inspire people to do better and to go after the things they've always wanted. My art is about expressing all the little pieces of my life that give it meaning, and sharing that in hopes that it can do something great for someone else. But my life and my art isn't about anyone else. It's about me. That's what it's all for. That's why I wrote 52,371 words of a book. And that's why I'll finish the rest, too.
Information tidal wave. Gotta put the phone away and look up at this pretty place. God, it's such a pretty place.
So after all of this, you might still be wondering, what is this book even about? And I don't want to give too much away, because this is still the first half of the first draft of the book, and it's still a long way from ever seeing the light of day, and things can totally still change. But at the same time, I'm dying for you all to meet the main character. So I'd like to introduce you to Ayumi Bawa. Ayumi is a girl who has always felt split between two worlds, but never quite feeling like she belonged to either. But when she's presented with the opportunity to escape her disaster of a life and explore her heritage in a trip to Japan, she takes it, in hopes that she can finally find some answers. Oh yeah, and did I mention she has phoenix wings? It's a story about belonging and finding your true self, in a world where it seems like everyone else has their own idea of who you should be. It's about this. It always has been. It's about finally finding yourself, in a world surrounded by other people's opinions and expectations. It's about finally forging your own path in life, after hitting what feels like rock bottom. But to understand her story, you first have to understand how her life came crashing down around her in the first place. And to do that, you need to meet her ex. And that means I have to finally finish one of those things I left sitting on the shelf for far too long. We'll talk soon.